Well, I'm here today because I was invited to speak about teacher unionism. Unions in general, in my opinion, have failed to mount the kind of aggressive fight for basic things like wages and benefits that people desperately need, protections on the job. But also, I think unions missed an opportunity to fight for all workers, for things that we all need. I think we've had a union movement that has lost touch with the grassroots activism that actually made unions, that brought unions into being in the first place in this country. We find in New York City that many teachers have almost no involvement in the union. They don't know that it exists. They only see that it's deducting money from their paycheck. Maybe they contact the union when they want to get their teeth cleaned or something like that. But there's no sense that the union is in any way an activist organization that's going to help you figure out how to make changes in your workplace or in the world. It's very clear that much of what we see coming down the pike as ed reform is not really about teaching and learning, not about improving teaching and learning. It's really labor policies masked as pedagogical policies. So for example, teacher evaluation, tying teachers' evaluations as workers to test scores, which is a disaster for teaching and learning. It's a disaster for students. It is not about anything other than destroying tenure. That's what that is really about. That's the purpose. So if you compare what's happening to teachers to, let's say, what happened to auto workers, you notice that there's a pattern. You're doing nearly the exact same things. To destroy the auto workers union, they closed down plants. Well, we have school closings. They spun off parts of auto production to private operators, so they would subcontract out. We have charter schools. They created all these tiers among the employers, so among the employees, so they would bring in new people at reduced pay and kind of grind through them. But we have Teach for America, where they do the same thing. So in many different ways, you see a similar attack that actually is not about schooling, but it's about how do you privatize and and of course unions are a major obstacle to that. So I think teacher unions in particular need to have a basic policy of defending what has already been accomplished, which unfortunately unions are not in every case doing. They have the idea, many of our union leaders, that the thing to do is sound like they agree with all this corporate ed reform. They're for it, but they just want to change it a little bit. That way, they say, they'll be in the conversation. The problem is by letting the wolf in the door, the wolf wants to eat you. The wolf doesn't want to talk to you. Unfortunately, what we will lose is the voice of the teacher in the process. Teachers will be at-will employees who can be dismissed at any moment. They will teach in an atmosphere where whatever is requested of them, they will never be able to push back and advocate for their students or for themselves. And unfortunately, I think what the corporate model brings us is an extremely hierarchical model in terms of power. In Burger King, the Burger King has the power. It's not the employees. They are at the mercy of the employer. They don't have any ownership over the process in a real sense. The students, the learners themselves have to have power. They have to have the ability to, in some way, play some role in dictating, in directing their educational process. The problem is that if we don't build a coalition, a fighting coalition that creates a very strong solidarity between teachers, parents, and students, then the corporate reformers will go to the parents and claim that the union doesn't care and try to whip the parents up to call for the blood of the union. And I've found that in many cases, parents figure this out over time. Reclaim the conversation. We can do this.